And now for a session produced by our underwriter Southern Company, a conversation about empowering the clean energy transition through public-private partnerships with Tom Fanning, CEO of Southern Company, and Nicholas Thompson, CEO of The Atlantic.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Thompson. I'm the CEO of The Atlantic, and it is my great pleasure to be joined here today with Tom Fanning, who is the CEO, but also the president and the chairman of Southern Company, the second largest utility in the United States. Tom, it's great to see you.
Nick, great to see you again.
Yeah,
awesome.
we had a wonderful time last year, and we'll have it again this year. So it's Climate Week.
Yes.
The whole world has come, lots of New York, all over the place, coming to talk about climate change. How long until we get to net zero, and what are the most interesting problems you're working on trying to solve now?
So it's a fascinating issue. Look, I think we've committed to get to 2050 net zero. We're going to do that with about half renewables. For us, mostly solar, not much wind, and whatever wind energy we get, we import right now from Kansas and Oklahoma, for heaven's sakes. And then about 20% from nuclear and maybe 20% from natural gas that will have the technical ability to capture the carbon atom. And then this last 10% is going to be something. It will either be the kind of net negative ideas, in other words, capturing carbon directly out of the atmosphere, or some sort of hybrid approach of sequestering carbon with plant life, or taking plant life and using it as a fuel or something like that. You know, one of the titles of this conference is this idea of public-private partnerships.
Sure.
In order to achieve this future, we really do need the federal government in bed with private sector. And I think it's so important. The DOE, as our sector-specific agency, has been terrific in this regard. Southern Company is the only company in our industry that still has robust proprietary research and development. The relationship with DOE has been deep and long, and in fact, we have run the nation's Carbon Capture Research Center for over 15 years. We've run the International Carbon Capture Research Center. We work very closely with the DOE on a variety of fronts, and that's so important. As I gave you this mix of 50% solar, 20 nuclear, 20 gas, I'm on the American Energy Innovation Council with Bill Gates. Southern Company is working with Gates and his people to develop the new generation of nuclear. We call it Gen 4, and it has the physical characteristic of having a core that probably won't be able to melt down, certainly at the temperatures that we see today, and so it becomes a much kind of safer enterprise with less capital cost. So there's a lot to do. In order to advance those ideas, we need to continue to have the federal government help us on innovation, research and development, starting up pilot plants. We can get this done, but we need to do it together.
All right, so you need to get in bed with the Department of Energy. Who else in the government do you need to get in bed with?
Well, I would say the national labs, which are under the purview of the federal government, plus we need tax policy, which we just got.
But obviously more money into research and development, help with carbon capture. What else specifically is not being done that needs to be done by the federal government?
Well, I wouldn't just say the federal government. This is public-private partnership. So I think what we need is the cooperation of the state and local governments in conjunction with what the federal government wants to do. And there's some fascinating issues there. In order to transition the fleet, this isn't some esoteric idea. Today we really don't have a national energy plan. And I would love to see that develop with the participation of the federal government, the private sector, and state and local governments. If we could get that done, my sense is we could move faster and more effectively toward this energy future. And Nick, the other thing is, I started with 2050. We probably can move that date earlier, but we're going to need a lot of people's help. At the end of the day, companies like ours have to recognize this balance of sometimes competing objectives: clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. We can move faster, it's going to cost more money. What can we do to keep cost to customers as low as practical? as we achieve our net zero future.
Now, the other advantage of getting to net zero, of course, are their national security implications, which is something you've worked on a lot. Explain where you think that's going.
I think it is an incredibly complex but important issue. So since you and I spoke last, I've taken the role of chairman of the CISA Advisory Board. That's the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. And it's the group within Homeland Security that assures, it's the clearinghouse for, our base protections against cyber threats. Companies like ours get attacked about 3 million times a day. And we know with the geopolitics we see around the globe, those things tend to spike, whether it's the issue in Ukraine, whether it's the South China Sea or Taiwan. We know that at least the big four, and the big four being Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and a whole host of others, including, I love to use movies as metaphors, but one of them, remember James Bond movies, Spectre.
Yeah.
So this is a worldwide criminal enterprise. And what they do, they exist today, not in the form of Spectre, but in other things, where they use statecraft that they may acquire on the dark web and attack as if they are a nation state. But what they want is to extort money. The big unknown threat is people that are more ideologues, maybe ISIS, people like that have less to lose. All of this kind of complex web of antagonists to our American way of life, our American form of free enterprise, are something that we are threatened by every day. As we do anything in this energy complex, whether it is achieving net zero, whether it is electrifying our transportation fleet, we have to keep cyber considerations in the forefront.
All right, so if you're trying to defeat Spectre, are you hiring more James Bond types with the machine guns or more that guy with the glasses? Who
that would mean we'd have to hire you. What you get to there is to understand not only what threats exist, where the attack vectors are, and a lot of times these attack vectors come through servers that may be located in neutral countries. And so we need to start thinking more globally about bilateral safety commitments. The other thing we need to do is to continue to think about not only what threats are present today, but what may exist in the future. That is, skate to where the puck will be. And then sometimes, we discussed this last year, but the idea would be, let's take the attack surface away from the attacker. And so are there ways for American commerce, if needed, to withdraw from the digital age, to unplug from the internet? We think we have solutions for that in our industry.
All right, well, we have about 30 seconds left, during which you'll be attacked about 1,500 times. Tell me the piece of technology that most excites you right now that will help us towards net zero.
Oh man, well wait, broadly to net zero, renewables and the importance of inverters. This is a piece of equipment that will take sunlight, turn it into DC electricity and make it usable to us. Storage is an awfully big deal. If we can get storage to work, I really think the lithium ion approaches we're taking today are going to need to be advanced. And so I think material science advances need to occur. Those would be the two big ones, I think, that are going on.
All right, well, let's all go get to work on that. Thank you so much,
Love
Tom.
it.
It was a great pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank
Good
you.
seeing you.
Good to see you, too.